Hi, and welcome to the ICUTPRO Academy, where we help you shape the future of your barber business. This video is going to cover a few different things, but the main thing that I want to encapsulate in this video is the tension bar of the clipper and the reasons why it's important. A lot of what I see with clipper modifications and calibration, I see that a lot of barbers remove this screw. And this screw is the tension screw. When we first made the skeleton and we removed the outer plastic of the clipper, one of the things that it allowed was for the tension screw to be accessible. Now, in years past, and I'm sure with prior knowledge of clippers, you've heard or you've come to understand that the tension screw is important. So sometimes when you see clippers without this tension screw, you may ask yourself why. Now, I'll give you the reason why it has been done. The reason why it's being done or has been done in the past is because barbers tend to think that if you remove the tension screw, that you would give the clipper the ability to move faster and be more powerful. But the problem is that we need the clipper to move from side to side. When you remove the tension screw, because vibration is not necessarily a side-to-side motion, you'll find that the tension bar will not only move side to side, but it would also move up and down. Now, that causes a problem. And the problem that causes is it takes tension away from the blade. The blade needs a certain amount of pressure on top of it in order for it to cut properly. In order for the blade to give you a proper cutting execution, there needs to be the right amount of pressure on top of this cutting blade so that there's no space between the cutting blade and the guide blade. Now, when you remove this screw, you give the clipper the ability to move at any direction at a higher speed. Now, what that does is it eventually will make the clipper pull. And the reason why is because after a while, constant vibration, the tension bar or the spring, which is this piece right here, will eventually lose its elasticity. And the reason why it would lose its elasticity is because there is nothing to control the amount of pressure that's being put on it. And this is the purpose for the screw. The screw's purpose is only to hold the spring, which is this, or the tension bar, in place. Now you might ask yourself, well, why do we need to hold the tension bar in place? The reason why is because there's a particular specific amount of tension being placed on top of this blade, and the only way to keep that amount of tension on top of the blade is to use this screw and screw the tension bar down and hold it onto this piece. And that way you'll have a constant amount of pressure on top of the blade. So now we understand that you can't remove the tension screw. If you remove the tension screw, you will get extreme power out of the clipper, but the clipper won't cut properly for a very long time because eventually the spring or the tension bar will lose its elasticity. Now, let's talk about the tension bar. The tension bar, if you look at it closely while I'm screwing it, you'll see it moving downwards. And you can tell that it's moving downwards because you'll see a space develop right here. Now, if I remove the screw, you see that the tension bar moves towards the top of the blade, the gap in the blade. Now, that means that this screw controls not only the amount of tension placed on the blade, but it also controls where this little armature sits on top of the blade. Now, if you watch the prior video talks about blade placement and blade balancing. Now, when you're balancing the blade, there's a lesson to be learned about the placement of this armature. This placement should be towards the center of the cutting blade, of the gap that's in the cutting blade. So, again, the tension bar should sit towards the middle of the cutting blade or the gap in the cutting blade, and the screw or the tension screw is to hold the tension bar in place. Now, let's talk about the actual tension bar.